This story begins on a bumpy highway in the southwest corner of Saskatchewan. Robert Ducan was on vacation from his home in Nanaimo, BC on that fateful day in the summer of 1996.
I figured there had to be something about the prairies that I was missing. You know, there had to be some kind of something special here.
There was, but it took a pencil tossed in the air to lead him to it.
So we threw this pencil up and it pointed south. So we got the map out on Highway 4 from Swift Current. And we saw that there was a park down there, Grasslands National Park. Anyway, we drove across the cattle guard into the park and my van died. Our camper died. You know, I thought, well, there's going to be something happen here, and then it just started happening from that moment on. That was the adventure that we came looking for. It started right then.
When Ducan's camper was hauled into Val Marie, life was about to change for him and for the town. Ducan sat waiting 4 days for parts, right across a gravel road from an old brick building.
We're looking at this building, and we asked around town, well, what's the building? Oh, it's the old convent, and they're going to tear it down. They're going to sell it to a guy for salvage this year for $1. So I looked at it again, and I thought, you're going to tear it down? We kept looking at it, so I went down and got the key from the village office and had a look inside. I guess they saw it as a liability, and I just saw it as an opportunity.
Ducan had seized other business opportunities in the past and had been successful enough to retire comfortably at the age of 42. He didn't need to work. But he was not about to throw his money away either. And he figured a bed and breakfast just down the road from a national park made sense.
No matter of all the feelings, if I couldn't see that it was actually some sort of economic possibility, I wouldn't have done it. Any other town near a national park, it's a little yuppieville or whatever, you know, a quaint little place usually, and that hasn't happened here. So I suspect that it will.
It seems a distant possibility at this point. Val Marie is a pleasant community of about 150 people, surrounded by some of the most unforgiving farmland anywhere.
It's tough. It really is. You have to be a certain type of person. If you're a quitter, you won't make it. On the other hand, you think of quitting every day.
Irvin Collier's people have farmed this part of Saskatchewan for generations. They've seen many neighbors give up and leave, watched Main Street wither. It seemed only practical to scrap the old convent. So there was some head-scratching when Robert Ducan showed up. The town of Val Marie was happy to have Robert Ducan take the old property off their hands for $1,000. So happy, they even threw in, unasked, a 5-year property tax holiday. Who knew? Maybe Ducan could bring a dose of park-related prosperity to the area. Prosperity the locals had almost given up on. This is Grasslands Park. Hundreds of square kilometers of short grass prairie, populated by prairie dogs and pronghorns, rattlers, and lots of birds. But after 16 years, you still won't find many tourists. It's definitely not the economic engine it was made out to be when politicians came to town pushing the park almost 2 decades ago.
There was a large meeting here at the hall, and I believe it was the deputy minister that came down, and his promises were such that there would be, if not millions, at least hundreds of thousands pumped into the community. There would be up to 60 employees working here. The highway would be rebuilt, all with federal funds. There would be advice and funding for people who wanted to build motels, campgrounds. It looked great.
They got their park office, eventually, with fewer than a dozen workers. The highway hasn't changed. The money never showed up.
I think those promises, to be quite frank, were never meant to be kept. I think it was a way of calming the community and getting the community on side.
Those broken promises made a bad situation worse. There was already grumbling about the changes an Ottawa-based bureaucracy would bring. This was working land, almost free of the kind of pesky creatures and plants the park would inevitably protect. So relations between the community and the park started on a bad note and haven't improved much in the years since. Jim Masick is the park warden.
Well, we were the new boy on the block. Our land use strategy was very different than the one that we took over. Many believe, still do, that if you don't graze this grass, you're wasting it. And if you don't crop that land, you're wasting that.
16 years later, Grasslands personnel are still mending fences. Whatever the initial sales pitch, this park was never intended to be a second Banff.
I think this park is probably best described, and I would guess that it'll continue to be facility poor but resource rich. We don't foresee a whole lot of development here. I don't think we're going to see hotels and all of the other kinds of tourism facilities developed within the park.
No restaurants, no fancy campgrounds, no parking lots. And as far as Val Marie was concerned, not much to contribute to the local economy. If Robert Duquesne knew about any of those problems, it wouldn't have mattered.
All I knew is that the building was going to be torn down, and I couldn't imagine it. I mean, look at it. I mean, can you imagine tearing the building down like that, but sound?
So with his two kids back in school in Nanaimo, Duquesne began the huge one-man job of turning the old convent into a bed and breakfast.
The secret of it is you just look at one thing at a time. Like, I'm fixing the roof now, then I'm plastering, now I'm doing floors, or I'm building stairs.
And it's gone on for 8 long months.
That's working 7 days a week, 8-10 hours a day. Anyway, this is going to be the restaurant.
When the nuns were here, up until about 15 years ago, this was a classroom.
And it's real slate. It's pretty incredible, huh?
But the building's been empty, with its roof leaking, for a decade.
All the water that fell for the last 10 years ran right through the building. So there was major damage. I mean, this here was all open beams, all the plaster was down.
Duquesne's story quickly became part of the local folklore. Who would have dreamt a West Coaster would see something of value in Val Marie? Something worth investing a year of hard work and more than $100,000 to fix up.
To see someone do it and actually believe in the town and in the community and in the park as much as he does gives a boost to the rest of the community.
Duquesne's arrival helped ignite a new confidence in Val Marie. If he believed, so could they. And soon enough, another restoration project began.
The next thing was the Friends of the Grasslands organization that was set up. They acquired the old school, which also was closed and in disrepair, from the school division, and now are renovating it, and they're going to have a kind of a retail come museum type thing. And people's spirits have picked up because something's being done.
How about that trio?
It's being done by volunteers like Karen Fargy. She's only been part of Val Marie for 3 years. Her husband works for the park. But she, too, knew Val Marie couldn't allow the school to rot away.
It would have been a sort of part of the soul gone out of the community.
Dozens of volunteers have spent hundreds of hours restoring the building, resurrecting a dream almost abandoned.
This is a community-built building, and now the community has restored it, and we've restored it so that we can bring the park home. It's a psychological turning that we've seen in this last year and a half. It's a turning where people are saying, yes, we'll probably lose our railroad. Yes, we might lose our RCMP detachment, but and the wheat pool, but there are so many things that we have, then we can fight for them to stay.
Robert Duquesne wants no credit for the new spirit in Val Marie. For him, this is the right investment at the right time, inhabited by the right spirits.
I mentioned before that there was some sort of presence in the building, a very benevolent presence. And I think it just keeps me feeling okay being here and doing this, because it's, you know, my family's out in BC because I got kids in school, and ordinarily I'd be missing them a lot more than I am. So I guess it's just like, it's a mission.
And if he has done anything for Val Marie, well, his time here has done something for him, too.
Here you have a purpose to your life. You know, you matter, you know people, you have community. You feel you can make a difference. You know, where you're in the city, you try to do something, but you don't make a difference.
Duquesne hasn't yet decided if it's in his future to settle here. He figures when the time comes, he'll know.
Just let it unfold. I mean, you know, if it's not me to be here, I'll fix it and move on. You know, it's like things are meant to happen. You know, and like the whole situation of coming here, the reason was that I got drawn here was to do this building.
For the magazine, I'm Jim McQuarrie in Val Marie, Saskatchewan.